Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show 2025 season. Oh my God, season 5. Seems like just yesterday I started this show. Now we've been blessed to start a brand new season, season 5, 2025. I guess those are called magical numbers. Today's show is a show that I would call the start of a journey and not knowing the destination. And then after that journey, the recovery process. But then, you know what? I'm going to call this story what it is because I'm going to base it on somebody's profession, on her profession now. Behind the lens. Just imagine yourself looking at life through a lens and not knowing your own outcome, and then have to refocus that lens to make sure you get the right clarity to make sure that you doing everything that you do to get the perfect image, that perfect long lasting image, that a perfection. A lot of people might say that's hard, but it is hard depending on what those circumstances are that you put in front of that lens. Today on the show, we have a beautiful young lady who journey is truly one of remarkable. Imagine getting ready for a 3-day race, a surge, 3-day of nothing but climbing rocks and mountains, and not me, it ain't going down. And then before all this, you go into the doctor and everything, seems to be okay. And then you get that dreaded call that you think everything is good and then find out, oh my God, something just ain't right. Today on the show, I'd like to welcome Tara Jane all the way from Pensacola, Florida. Make sure I pronounce that right, to the show as she tells us about looking through that lens and what it was like for her. Welcome to the show, baby girl.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. Thanks again.
Pensacola, Florida. Man, beautiful place.
Amazing. So pretty.
I'm going to tell you my first encounter before we get into your story. High school, Doherty High, 1978 maybe. My first track and field meet. And I remember the coach said he's only taking 15 people to this track and field meet. Now, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm now in Georgia, Albany, which isn't that far from the Florida-Georgia line. And we wind up going to the Pensacola track and field outdoor relays at one of the high schools there. I can't remember because it was so long ago, but I do remember this, my first encounter there. We went to a McDonald's and I saw seagulls for the first time. I had never seen a seagull and I freaked out. I was like, wow, these birds are like all over the place, man. But even the schools were truly magnificent, so my hat's off to where you live at, because I've been there as a youngster and I know it couldn't have done nothing but elevated the way that it looks, its appearance and its people. So congratulations for that.
It's time to come back.
Yeah. Were you born and raised there? Or you born and raised?
I was born and raised. Well, I was born in Pensacola, but my mom married somebody in the military, so we moved around. So I've lived in Maine, California, Alabama, Mississippi. But Florida is my favorite, so here I am.
Okay, so you shared a little bit about this journey, and I was like, hold down, we're gonna save some of this for the cameras. So you started out with really preparing to run for a major 3-day event, but before we get there, what was it like growing up for you in Florida. You mentioned you went from state to state to state. What was it like as a young child for you?
I mean, it was the best. I mean, growing up just down the street from the beach, I mean, I loved it. I can't imagine a life without it. It's amazing.
Now, your mother and father was both in the household the whole time you was growing up too, as well.
No, it was just my mom most of the time. My mom, I grew up without a dad, and my mom married somebody, and he has been my dad. But yeah,
When Let me go back a minute. You mentioned that your mom had you when you was young. What was that like? What was that like for your mom, raising you at a young age?
it was hard, right? Like it's hard because you got to grow up at the same time as you're being a mom, and I'm especially now that I'm old and I've been a mom. Gosh, I just can't. She's so strong. I just can't imagine doing that at such a young age. Like you're basically like as they say, a baby raising a baby.
What did
And
you
back in a time when people probably frowned on it a lot more than they do now.
What did you learn from your mom that now you are a single um, parent, you have one child. What did you learn from your mom that was different than what you brought into your raising your own kid?
What it's different.
Yeah, like what did you learn from that being a single mom and seeing that that wasn't cool at the time and you watched your mom raise you and stuff. So now you are a mother. What was that like for you? What did you take away from that going into being a mother yourself?
Well, I definitely waited. I was 30 when I had my son. So I definitely took my time and did my young adulthood and then had a baby. So I mean, I just definitely was not going to repeat the young mother.
Hmm. So now let's move forward a little bit. You said you was getting ready for this 3 day excursion. What is this? How did this all take place? How did this even come into your um, inner circle?
Well, actually, I was at a gym, and the year before, somebody had done it, and they talked about how amazing it was. And then I saw the ad come up on Facebook, and so I started reading through it. And it's just this 3 day stage race in the mountains, and you, like you said, you're running up and down rocks, up and down the side of hills, up waterfalls, through waterfalls. I got lost. It was amazing.
How did you prepare for such an event? Now, I know firsthand Florida is flat.
So flat. I just ran a lot, and then about an hour away in Lower Alabama, there is Blakely Blakely State Park, and
Mhm.
it has some hills and some stairs, and I did a lot of running there, and just prepared the best I could, and it worked out.
How long did you prepare for the show? What was the time frame that you
Well,
entered, and how long did you have to train to get ready? Because this is your first time ever doing this, so there had to be some type of intense training for you. How long did that take?
I didn't just pick up running and decide to do the Grand Paduta. I had been running for a while, 5Ks, 10Ks, 12Ks. Um, so every weekend I would run and I would do short runs during the week, and I was still going to boot camp classes, which is like, functional fitness, which I'm sure helped.
Mhm.
And it just, that's all I did for 2 months was run.
What was the challenge for you? I mean, I know this is new terrain. It's not like running a marathon where you're basically either going to run flat or you're going to go up and down, hills. This is actually terrain territory that you have to run. What did you change differently in your training regimen?
Well, you have to buy the correct shoes, so I did my best there. I bought some trail running shoes, and um, I lost my train of thought.
You
I
bought some
bought
trail running.
trail running shoes, and just practice really, because that's all I could do is it's running, so it's just a lot of practice.
So you wind up doing it, and you mentioned you got lost. How in the heck did that take place?
Well, so it's a 3 day stage race, and there's a long race and there's a short race. So there's two different trails, and to do the long race, you go one way, and then to do the short race, you go the other way. Well, I guess I accidentally picked the wrong way, and I ended the short race, and I was like, oh no, I want to go back and finish. So I turned around and went back. And I guess that took up so much time, they thought everybody was done. So they came along and took the markers up from the trail. And so I was lost. And luckily, the person that went with me decided to stay and not do the long run. So I called them and they went and found the people that put the race together and they came and found us. And then we all ran out.
They probably don't want you to come back. So I take it you've always been healthy. Even prior to this event, you was healthy entering it. You went and got complete physical and so forth, but you get an unexpected phone call from your medical team. What was that like?
It's completely caught me off guard because I had just ran the race like a month before and I felt good.
Mhm.
And they called me and they said, "Hey, Tara, we need you to come in and we need you to get a scan." I was like, "Oh, no, no, you don't. I just moved to Gulf Breeze from Pensacola, which is, one just a little bit closer to the beach." I was like, "You guys just haven't got my records yet. It's fine." They're like, "Oh, no, we do. That's why we need you to come in, is because we found something on that scan." And I was just floored because I was just not expecting that at all.
What
You know,
did what did they tell you when they didn't tell you over the phone, did they? Did they have you come in?
Yeah, they can't really tell you until you get a biopsy. I mean, they know what they see, but they can't tell you until you go in and you get a biopsy and get an official diagnosis. They can't tell you whether it is or isn't until that point.
So when you got the biopsy, what was the outcome?
Um, you go back in and you get the results, and you kind of know because they had a nurse navigator kind of lady to kind of help you. And I'm like, well, I mean, if I don't have cancer, why do I need a nurse lady to help me? So I kind of like started getting anxiety going in, and they take you into this room and then they tell you, the words that you just don't want to hear is that you have cancer. And it's just like the world just starts spinning and you're like, what? This is insane. How is this true? Like, and the whole thing, you're like walking into buildings that say cancer center. It's just surreal.
Like when they told you you had it, like I know this is probably the most silliest question, but like, what is your trade of thought? Like, I know the first thing is this is unreal, but then I think the second thing would be, how do I prepare to deal with this?
No, it's why do I have to be such a burden to my family now?
That's what you thought about?
Yeah. That was yeah. It's like, how is my family going to get through this? Like, are they going to be okay? Because I know I'm going to be okay.
Right. I'm sorry. I know this is emotional. Um, yeah, because I know that's crazy to ask somebody, but what do you think at that time? The survival mode kicked in, but you thought about being a burden to your family. What kind of cancer were you diagnosed with? Is there different? Because I'm pretty sure there's different types of breast cancer. What was yours?
It was, I had breast cancer, I had ER/PR positive, HRE2 negative, stage one. It's just like it's like basically like the most common cancer there is. So it's obviously the most treatable. So, I mean, it was scary, but I actually made it through, as far as cancer is concerned, pretty easily.
How did they give you any indication on how you could have even got to this stage, because you're healthy, you're running, and there was no signs or symptoms that you was displaying? Did they give you any indication how this happened to affect you?
Yes, actually, there's actually a couple of things. It was hormone driven, so it was caused by hormones. So, I've taken some preventative measures going forward for that, and then I also found out that I have Lynch syndrome, which is a very, well, as of now, very rare genetic disorder that everybody can get cancer, but my chances of getting cancer are a little bit higher than everybody else's.
Mhm.
So, which is actually, again, when you get that message, that's like a gut punch that you really didn't see coming.
Yeah.
But now that I've lived through it and I've had time to reflect, it's a great thing because my medical team, they know I have Lynch syndrome. Every time something is wrong with me, it's taken so very seriously. It's a good thing. But Lynch syndrome is definitely something people need to be aware of and know about.
How did they know you even had it? What kind of tests were performed on you? I've never even heard of it. Does this have to do with the lymphatic system that's compromised in your body? What give me a little bit more detail on exactly what it
Lynch
is. How
syndrome.
did they yeah, and how did
I'm
they
sorry.
determine you even had it? Was it through blood work or what? Because I've never even heard of it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. A lot of people have. It's when you find out you have breast cancer, they come to you and they ask you, do you want genetic testing? Because the BRCA gene causes breast cancer, and so that's mainly what they're checking for. And they ask you, do you want us to just check for BRCA, or do you want us to check for all genetic disorders? And I was like, well, check for all.
Yeah.
Again, not expecting anything. Because a lot of people that have Lynch syndrome in their family, and because I didn't grow up with my father, maybe, but a lot of people that have Lynch syndrome in their family, they have a lot of people that pass away from cancer because you get, um, some people say breast cancer, some don't, but it's like brain cancer, I'm a little nervous, so I can't think of all the cancers.
Hmm.
Um, but it's scary stuff. But it's just genetics. And it comes from one of your parents. You have either 50% getting it from your mom, 50% chance getting it from your dad.
Your mom raised you pretty much. Did how much did you know about your father, your biological father?
I didn't know anything. I
So
did find him though,
really, okay. Um, After you was diagnosed, you found him or before?
after.
And I'm pretty sure, like most people, when you have these situations occur, you begin to really check your ancestry.com pretty seriously. So, did you check your? Let's go back a minute. Were there anybody on your mom's side suffering from any of these cancer related things that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, breast cancer, some people say it's related to Lynch syndrome, some people don't. And I think my mom has since told me that one of maybe my aunts maybe had breast cancer, but nothing prevalent, right? Because that's what I would expect to see.
Right, right. So there's almost maybe 1 to 2% from the mother's side. So now you meet your father. How did that even come about? Because your other stepfather raised you. Now, how did this guy come back into your circle?
Well, you know, my mom just didn't have a lot of information. So I went to Ancestry and Me back in like
You
2016, way
know,
before
I was just playing with that ancestry. You really did it.
100%. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah. So 2016, I just wanted to get some more information about myself. I wanted to see where my heritage was from. So
right,
I did
right.
it, right? This was amazing. Finally get to know about myself. Yeah, we need to really find out who our dad is. So I went on there and I thought I figured it out, but I really wasn't sure because that stuff is kind of like it's not hard, but it is hard. So I
Yeah.
went on Facebook and they have like this whole group that will help you. It's like they'll search through your DNA and find your lineage. I found my aunt, reached out to her. She said it was one of her two brothers. Reached out to the first brother, asked him if he would take the test. He said yes. He took the test and bingo, that was my dad.
Get out of here. What was the first? Okay, so you know where I'm going. How did you reach out to your dad?
I just call I Facebook. I reached out through Facebook and I was like, "Hey, I have something that I want to talk to you about. Can I get your number?" He was open to it. He was a
What do you say? Hey, I'm your long lost kid.
Yeah, basically. I mean, right? That's a weird You're right. That is a weird conversation.
So he was open to talk to you. When he picked up the phone, what did you say? I like to take me down that moment. He picks up the phone. What's the first thing out of your mouth to him, and what was his reaction?
I was probably just like, "Hey, how are you? My name is Tara, and I have this really crazy thing for you."
I'm your daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
What was his reaction?
He was like, "Okay, yeah, sure. I'll take the ancestry test." I was because I offered to pay for it, right? Because I didn't want to call this gentleman and just ask for something. I was like, "I'll pay for it." He's like, "No, I'll pay for it. I'll take it, and when I get the results, I'll let you know." And I mean, it was so, my whole life, I'm like, when you're a kid, you're thinking it's just going to be this like dramatic, magical thing. And it's just like this everyday conversation. Okay, I might be your dad. Okay, yeah, I'm your dad. Okay, great. Hi, how are you? And then, you ask questions. I have brothers and sisters. And then you find out what God protected you from. And it does heal you.
Let me ask a question. So you pay whoever that you go through with the ancestry.com, and so I take it you don't tell him you are his daughter yet, or you tell him to make him at least go and look. So I assume you already told him
Yeah,
about.
no, I said I think I'm your daughter. Like there's a chance, I kind of went through the whole story about the
Yeah.
cancer and why I was reaching out and a little bit about myself and that I wasn't, of course I had to reassure him that I wasn't trying to like um I didn't want anything, right? Like I was here just for information.
Did he know you? Did he know of you? Did he know your mom?
I mean, he knows my mom, but it's been some years.
Did he even suspect that he had a child?
No, zero.
Holy crap. So he finds out that you're his daughter. How does that change the narrative now? Knowing that you had cancer, how did he help you to see if that particular genetic pool came from his side of the family?
Well, and part of my push to reach out to him is because I couldn't get anybody in my mom's side. I couldn't get anybody to take me seriously and get tested. I was
Right.
like, you guys, we need to know. We need to know, like, we information and knowing is powerful. You need to know, like, even as you don't want to know for you, your kid, you need to know for like, my nieces and nephews and cousins, everybody needs to know. And I couldn't get anybody to take me seriously. So I was reaching out to him. So my first step was to find out if he was my dad. And I found out and I was kind of digesting that. And my mom got cancer in her eye during this period. And now she starts taking me seriously and she got tested and she is the one that gave me the Lynch syndrome.
Get out of here. Now, how did that change your mom outlook on things, knowing that it took it took something like that to happen to you to make individuals understand the importance of genetic testing and ancestry research. And out of all this, she winds up with a cancer related illness. Was it treatable?
Oh yes, yes. She got treated. She actually went over. She lives in Biloxi, and so she went over to New Orleans because they found out she had Lynch syndrome, and it's kind of a big deal. People are like interested, um, and she went over to New Orleans and got treated, and she's fine now.
How many was do you know the percentage of individuals that have this particular genetic marker? Because I know you've
No,
done
it's
your
rare.
research.
It's super rare. Like sometimes I've, I've heard, oh, you're my first Lynch syndrome patient a couple of times.
Wow. You said
Yeah.
something. You said something about your father. You said that something about the universe or God keeps you away from certain things as you go through life. What were some of the things that kept you out of that you made that statement about?
Well, you always grow up and you think, when I was growing up, I'm sorry, not everybody does this, but I grew up without a father. So I always kind of thought, that a father would kind of be the answer to all of my problems. And if I, maybe growing up, things would have been differently. But I was talking to my sister, and I don't know that that would have been true. They might have been different in a way that I couldn't handle. And I don't really want to put other people's business out there too much, but it would have been a different grow. It would have been different. And it would have been, I think, harder for me in that situation than it was in, because my mom, she loved me. She was there for me. She didn't choose drugs over me, but we just didn't have a lot of money. So that comes with its own set of struggles. And I always thought having a father would help with that. But I don't think that it would. But talking to my sister, I, and how she grew up, I think I grew up exactly how I needed to. I needed to be strong, and here I am.
Do you and your sister share the same father?
Yes.
What was her reaction that you found this guy, and had your sister ever tried to look for him? And more importantly, the bigger
She grew up
question,
with him.
huh?
She grew up with him.
Okay, but you didn't know who he was at all.
No. Like, my mom got pregnant, and I think they were ashamed, my family, and they lived in New York, and they just got up and they moved to Pensacola.
What was your sister's memorization of your father?
She loves him. She loves him. She says that, he did the best that he could.
When your sister found out that you found him, did your sister ever try to reach out to him?
My sister grew up with him. My sister didn't know about me. So what happened was my mom and my dad, they met. My mom got pregnant, didn't tell a soul, moved across the country to Florida from New York, and then everybody in New York goes on, and they didn't know anything about me.
Okay, now I think I'm starting to understand the scenario. These are your new brothers and sisters that you found out about. Now it makes sense. I'm like, it's not making any sense.
I'm sorry that I didn't clarify that. I
Now I
apologize.
got it. These are your half brothers or and sisters that
Hmm.
your dad had. Okay, now it makes sense.
Yes.
Is there any? I know, I know you. I know there's no resentment, but were there moments that you got mad at your mom for not sharing, at least better information where you can know your knew your father, because now you found him, and I'm pretty sure there's always two sides to every story. There's the mom side and there's the dad side. And then there's the bullshit that lies in between that we have to figure out what's the truth. And basically what it is what's going to make us comfortable on both sides of the table. How did you deal with that to come to peace with both of them?
Uh, you know, the fact that my mom was young has always made it kind of, a little easier for me to understand why she did what she did. She was scared. And what she tells me is she didn't want anybody to take me from her. And she was afraid that if she stayed, that I would be taken from her. And that's why she was scared and she ran. She didn't want me she wanted me. She wanted me, she didn't want anybody to take me. And so, I mean, it's kind of hard to be mad at that.
Yeah. What about your dad? What did he share with you, his side of the story?
He literally had zero idea that I existed.
Wow. So now you got a brand new family. Brand new family. What was that like for you?
I'm on the other side of cancer with a whole brand new life. Everything is new, including, I mean, everything. Everything is new. And it's awesome.
Now, how did you wind up being a photographer? Because I looked at your pictures and I can tell you're taking beautiful pictures of a brand new you, a brand new life, new brothers and sisters. Before you answer that, I'm gonna ask a question. What's the relationship like with your mom and your dad?
I love them both. I mean, I love them both.
No, what is their relationship like?
Oh, they haven't talked to each other. There isn't one.
So they still haven't come to grips with childhood mistakes and
Right.
one that they have you as their daughter in their life. They still haven't come to grips to sit down and they even try to get to know each other again.
No. No.
Oh
No.
well, life goes on. So, how did the photography come in? I see a lot of your creativity and your new zest for life through the lens of a camera. Tell me a little bit about being a photographer and what's that like for you.
It's amazing. And I'm so happy about it. Like, I've always wanted to do it, but photography, everybody does it.
Yeah.
I was afraid of, being mistaken as a copycat. My mom did it. Everybody's done it. But, when I got done with cancer, I was like, you know what? Who cares if everybody has a camera and takes pictures? Because now everybody, including me, is going to do it. And I picked up the camera and it wasn't easy. It was not easy to figure out. I struggled for a long time. I made a really good friend who's been like my mentor. She's been amazing. She's gotten me to where I am right now, and I am making so many beautiful memories, and I'm so proud of myself. I love it. It's so fun. I love making memories. Like, right? Like, I know how important memories are, because sometimes that's all you never know when you look back at that, and just it's just a great memory. Like, I love it. It's just awesome.
So, what are you doing now differently with your overall health, your overall mental well-being, to minimize the risk of the illness causing more undue harm to you?
I well, I my cancer was driven by hormones, so I had a complete hysterectomy. I take hormone blockers and I exercise. There's really nothing that will prevent cancer more than diet and exercise. And so the diet part, I'm not as disciplined about, but exercise is so fun. I love it. It's great.
Your brothers and sisters, what's their relationship like? You got new brothers and sisters. What do you guys talk about? Like right now, it's been so. I mean, you're not kids. I mean, you're now adults. I mean, are can you have a bond now, even though you're older?
I'm trying. We're trying. It is hard. It's hard. Like, it being honestly, it's hard. And I don't know that I don't know that it'll happen, but we haven't met in person yet. Um, Maybe that's what it'll take, but
I think you're working on doing something like that. I just feel this sense that you're getting ready to put together some type of reunion where everybody shows up. Is that pretty much what I'm thinking is correct?
I've tried. It didn't work out before, but I'm definitely going to do it again.
Before we wrap up, first of all, thank you for coming on the show, and I know this had to be an emotional relive, but thanks for sharing it on the show. How can the viewers reach out to you and support you to know more about the type of cancer that you had, and be a source of resource for individuals that may have had it, or even the importance of reaching out and knowing how important it is to know your ancestry heritage?
Um, you can find me on Facebook at Tara Jane Photo, or Instagram at Tara Jane Photo. Super easy to find.
What keeps you going every day? What keeps you in that beast mindset? You've been through a lot, but out of all that you've been through, you came out smelling like roses. You're looking through a completely new lens at life. What keeps you going? What keeps that beast mindset?
Hope, hope, right? Oh, there's always hope.
Ladies and gentlemen,
My superpower.
you heard it straight from Tara Jane on the Andre the Beast Crayton show.